Hello and welcome to Sharing Jewish Wisdom.
Well, today, as we suggested at the end of the last broadcast, Mark, we're going to do a little workshop on lighting candles. Shall we say, lighting up the event. But before I get on your wick, can I, yes, you'll get all these today. I'm so sorry, but I've saved them up for you. I hope in particular that the ladies are looking in. And of course, gentlemen and anybody else who might be around, because we're going to talk about lighting candles. Now, I know, and you know, and we all know that lighting candles is something that's done on a Friday afternoon before Shabbat comes in. But Mark and I were talking about the whole thing, and in fact talking to his mother about it as well. And we were saying, what's the background to it? What's the reasoning, the rationale? Is there a particular way of doing it, and so forth? And we came to the conclusion that it might actually help people just to have a little look at it. So we're going to take some of your valuable time in order to discuss it. Right. So let's look at the background to what it's all about. And you might be surprised to learn that the background goes as far as the actions of Chava, otherwise Eve, right at the beginning of the book of Genesis, of Bereshit. You will doubtless all remember the story that the Nochosh, the serpent, came along and persuaded her to take of what was then the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden. She then gave it to the man that was with her, that we know as Adam, or Adam Elishin, and he ate of it. And thereby she, if you like, damaged the work of creation and what was going on in the Garden of Eden, and therefore she brought darkness into light. And as a result, it became a tradition from then that it was, if you like, the responsibility of woman to bring that light back. And one of the ways it's done is by lighting Friday candles. Simple, really, isn't it? And in case you're interested, it's Genesis chapter 3, verse 6, if you want to rush away and check up the source. Better you stir the sauce, otherwise it might congeal. Now, is it also a Mosaic tradition? Well, interesting, because if we go a little bit further on from the actions of Eve, we find out about Isaac marrying Rebekah. And if you look at Genesis 24, verse 67, which I know you're absolutely rushing to do, you will find that Rashi, our commentator par excellence, says this. But it says in the text that Isaac brought his wife Rebekah into the tent of his mother, his late mother, Sarah. Rashi comments that in the time of Sarah, she made a light in the tent before the Sabbath, and miraculously it lasted from one Sabbath to the next when a fresh light was kindled. That stopped when Sarah passed away, but it restarted as a miracle when Rebekah came to live there. Because, of course, in her merit, as she was as one of the mothers of the Jewish people. And therefore, again, we see the importance of the lady bringing a light to a place. Okay, so let's have a look and see what it says about the purpose. We know the origins. What's the purpose? And if we look in the Talmud, if we look in the tractate Shabbat, page 25b, which I'm sure you've all got handy for a quick reference, Rashi comments there that, in brief, the making of lights adds a dignity to the Shabbos, and it brings a lovely atmosphere. Now, you just think of your Friday night table. What is, I might say, the focus of that table? It's going to be the candles. So Rashi isn't adrift in any way. He really makes the point for us. On a practical level, of course, at a time before electric light and so forth, the lighting of the candles brought light into what would otherwise have been a dark room. And some of us like to see what we're eating rather than take the risk, particularly if you're visiting other people. So therefore, those lights added a significant factor to the whole Friday night experience. I must just tell you a little story. Many, many years ago, I was the guest Friday night at the home of, now unfortunately no longer alive, the late Reb Motel Weiss. Motel Weiss was the Rosh Kollel Satmar in Yerushalayim. And he lived in a road called Rehov Chaim Ozer off Meir Shorim, in the really old traditional part of Jerusalem. And I stayed there for Shabbat. And Friday night, they don't use electric light. They had naphtha lamps hanging up around the room, and it created a most amazing ruach, a real beautiful atmosphere. I'll never forget that. It was very different. So there is something to gain out of all these, although I should add, of course, that we don't use these lights for mundane purposes. They're there for a holy purpose, not to use in order to save on your electricity bill. That would never do. Okay. In some communities, it is the custom that where the reader's desk is in the synagogue, on a Friday afternoon, they also light candles along the edge of the reader's desk.
Railings, yeah.
Yes. However, we shouldn't shout about that too much, otherwise we'll have the health and safety executive coming down upon us like a ton of candles.
Hey.
Yes, right. So, how many candles do you light? Well, the minimum number, effectively, is 2. Why 2? Because there are 2 versions of the 10 Commandments in the Torah, one in the book of Exodus and one in the book of Deuteronomy. I'm not going to give you the sources. You can find those for yourself. That's your homework assignment if you choose to take it on. And one version says, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And the other one says about keeping the Sabbath day for it to be holy or honouring it. So there are 2 versions. So in order to cover both, we have a minimum of 2 candles. Now that is, as I say, the minimum. Some people have the custom to light an extra candle for every child in the family. And if you go somewhere where there's a big family, you can be rivaling the national grid for all the lights that are on the table. But it really is a beautiful thing to see. Okay.
Now, you mentioned children. So basically, when is a child allowed to light candles, or are they allowed to light candles if they're single, or
Very good question.
After they're bat chayil?
Right. Okay. There appear to be different customs. It's normally a married woman has the responsibility as part of making the home. However, there are some who say that from the age of 3, a little girl should start lighting just 1 candle to get in, if you like, to the whole process and the procedure of it and understanding the significance of it. So that's a very good question, Mark. Yes, okay, you've lighted on something good there. So who does light? As we were saying, it's the lady of the house. Now, why? Well, the Rambam, Moshe ben Maimon, in his Mishnah Torah refers to the fact that women are usually in charge of domestic arrangements, and therefore it follows on as a logical sequitur that she should be the one who lights. However, if a man lives alone, the man is also obliged to light. He's not exempted. So that's worth bearing in mind. When are the candles lit? Well, they're normally lit some 15 to 20 minutes before Shabbos comes in. That's about the time that we do it. Obviously, you have to watch the clock, because if you go over the limit and Shabbos is in, then unfortunately you can't light them, because to do so would be to break Shabbos. And by the same token, once the lights are extinguished, or even while they're burning, you can't move the candlesticks, except in very, very unusual circumstances, as to which you should consult your local rabbi for guidance. So, that's what we do. In other places, they light earlier. The custom in Jerusalem, for example, is to light anything from 40 minutes before Shabbos, as they do at the time of lighting the menorah. But our purpose is it's about 15 to 20 minutes before sunset. And what happens if the candles should accidentally go out? Somebody opens a door with ferocity and causes a breeze, a window's open and the wind blows and whatever. The answer is, once Shabbos is in, you cannot relight them. And what happens if a lady should forget to light? Now, I can tell you a little story about that. I remember some years ago, where I was then living, there was a lovely family who had twins, and the Shabbos came for their bar mitzvah. And they had a lot of visitors staying. And in the house, all the wives of the visitors brought their own candles and so on and so forth. I was invited for Friday night dinner, and I noticed 2 candles in candlesticks sitting on the sideboard, and I said to the lady of the house, "Oh, they haven't been lit." "No," she said, "they're mine. I got so carried away with watching other people light that I suddenly realised I hadn't lit mine." So what's the result? The result is that forever after, the lady of the house must light 1 extra candle to make up for those that she missed.
How interesting.
Yes, that's the rule. There we are. Okay.
And if you go to someone's house for Shabbos, I presume that you'd light candles in their house. Would you do it before you leave your house, or would you go if you're a guest in their house?
Okay. You are meant to have the benefit of seeing the candles once they've been lit and during the course of Shabbos. So, for example, let's supposing I was going to
a friend or whatever. Yeah.
Well, I haven't got any, but okay, we'll say that. Let's just exaggerate, ladies and gentlemen. We'll pretend I've got a friend and I'm invited for Friday night dinner. Well, if I light my candles and then I go off to prayers at shul, and then I go on to my friend, and by the time I come back, they're going to be out. Right, okay, so that's not a good idea. I can ask the lady of the house to have me in mind, and even better is to give a small coin before Shabbos, and you actually buy a share in the candles that are being lit, and you overcome the problem that way.
Interesting.
Oh, there's always a way around the problem, because a problem has to have a solution. If it doesn't have a solution, it's not a problem. So that is the answer. There we are. Okay. You're doing very well with the questions, I have to say.
I've had a good teacher.
Really? Okay. Well, wouldn't want to think who that was. Now, when we light the candles, there's obviously a bracha, a blessing to be made. Very simple. The usual standard intro, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. And for this, the particular wording is Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosov v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbos, who sanctified us with his commandments and directed us regarding the lighting of the Sabbath candles. Some people finish it off, Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosov v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbos kodesh. Choice is yours, but that is the bracha. Now, when you've made the bracha, let's put it the right way around. Having lit the candles and you're going to make this bracha, Obviously, it's not right that you should have benefit from the candles until after you've said the bracha, which is, if you like, a form of thanks. So you will see that ladies will cover their eyes so as to shut out the light, so that they don't have benefit until they made the bracha. Now, someone was talking to me recently about waving the hands that women do.
Yes.
Now, as far as I'm aware in my research, there is actually no halakhic basis for that. It's a custom. And if people feel that that's what they do and it assists them, fine, but there's no necessity. So there we are. How long should the candles last? Well, the candles should be burning well into the Friday night meal, because obviously there's very little purpose in having them, and they go out after half an hour, and then people come home and sit down to make kiddush and eat the Friday night Suda, and there's no candles burning. So that's how long they need to burn. Obviously, at different times of the year, and depending on your custom, they may need to be either 20s, 16s, or 12s, depending on the size of the candles. Obviously, the 12s burn longer, the 20s burn less. Fine. Okay. And that is basically where it's at. Don't forget, please, likes, subscriptions, nice comments, and we hope to see you soon. And of course, we have to finish. Good Shabbos!
Indeed, exactly. Thank you very much.
Please click the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel for some great content.